I'll be responding to Jenny's post, and I just want to start off by saying that your response to the prompt was great. I agree 110% with all the points you brought up on ways to efficiently bring the parents or guardians of the student into the conversation. One that sticks out in particular is being cautious of the way we address the family of the student. Whether it's a parent or a guardian, the last thing we want to do is make any implication that we know more about the student than they do, or that we know what's better, or that, we want to avoid using language, like we discussed in class. We want to avoid using language like, Jimmy should do this, or Sarah should do that, or, mom and dad should do this, and because I think that only makes things, only brings tension between the school and the parents when the parents feel like they're being targeted, especially if the parents feel like the school is not holding themselves accountable for what they're doing. It would mean to say that, that the school has done everything they can do, and now it's all up to the student and the parents. And I don't think that's ever the case. I think there's always a different way to approach things, and that would be my answer to your question, is that if the school feels like they've done everything in their power to help the student, I don't know if that's possible. I think there's always more that can be done. And if a school thinks that, then they probably have to reassess the way they're looking at the situation. One example would be, if you've contacted the parents, if you've set up meetings, if you've sent out letters, and you honestly feel like maybe, ultimately if the parent is being unresponsive, I think a creative way to bring the parent into the conversation is to maybe talk to the student and find out maybe if there's a teacher that they trust, maybe a teacher that they can vouch for, or speak very highly of, so that this way the student can speak to the parent and say, look, mom, dad, I really trust this teacher. I know this teacher cares about me. And I think ultimately it's in the best interest of the student. So I would imagine that the parent would be willing to try something like that. I also think that keeping an open line of communication between the SPED teachers, the case manager, and the parent as well is very important, because if a parent has a question, they need to feel like they're part of the situation, like they're part of the effort to educate their student. And whether it's gen ed or special ed, it's very important to make the parents feel like they're part of it. And I think by keeping an open line of communication, constantly sending notices, Ashley's been doing good in this class, here are some good things she's done, here are some things she's struggling with. And that's another thing that I think educators can focus more on is positive reinforcement, and constantly being mindful that we don't always have to criticize the things that students are doing wrong. It's important that we address, the things that they're doing well. Otherwise, the IEP meetings can turn into just a meeting about complaints and whatnot. So I think overall, just being positive and communicating with parents, and maybe bringing in someone that the parent trusts may be the most effective way of trying to get a parent into the meetings and cooperate that may not be so willing to do so.